Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning into the Bonus Point podcast. Once again, I'm your host, TJ Olsen, and the topic of today's episode has been highly requested as it's all about what goes into becoming an elite rugby player. Just before we jump in, I just want to thank our amazing sponsors. First off, Whalebird Kombucha. If you're looking for a great tasting beverage that is actually good for you, go try them out at your local Whole Foods, Air One, or other health food stores. Secondly, F45 Culver City. So F45 isn't just a gym, it's a real community, and the team is all there to help you achieve your fitness goals with sessions in just 45 minutes. They're still operating very safely during these new COVID-19 regulations and restrictions that have been implemented. So reach out to them if you're looking for some life-changing results. Our next guest knows how to prepare to play at an elite rugby level and also knows how to execute it, as he has to go through all that prep as a professional rugby player and is also training other talented players as a strength and conditioning coach for one of Australia's elite rugby clubs. So I'm hoping he can provide our listeners with an insight on what type of training and prep goes into a full season of being an elite rugby player, and also an insight into his career over both rugby codes. Please welcome former Australian Sevens player, former NRL Rookie contestant, and current strength and conditioning coach for Sunnybank Rugby Club, Peter Lee. What's up, Mana? How you doing?
Manana, Bula, Bulunaka Malolele, Tough Lava. No, thanks for having me.
Good, bro. It's good to see your face. So I think big congratulations are in order. You've got a little one on the way. You're recently married. How's it all going?
Yeah, it's going good, actually. That's why I brought the blue flowers here, as you can see. Dedicated to my baby boy on the way.
There you go.
Shout out to Curtin and Tupou for buying these, for Emma and Emily Solder for buying these for us. So to replicate or to represent our baby boy on the way. No, it's good. Big milestones being hit. Obviously playing professional rugby and that. It's nice to know that I guess life is bigger than just rugby. So as much as I love it, it's puts in perspective. Baby on the way, being married, and more exciting things to come. Now I know why. I'm looking forward to being dad. So can't complain.
I bet you'll be a great dad. You're always a good mentor. You're working in the community, doing a lot of stuff. You got a couple of different jobs. So you're working with F45 as well, and you're working as a officer. And you said in the youth prisons. Is that right?
Yes, I mean I am at F45 Browns Plains in Beenleigh. And I guess, exactly what you said is it's more than just a gym there. Sometimes you can kind of get lost as one of those franchises. I guess what kind of separates, the good for, I guess the great from the good is, that family aspect, the culture that they kind of bring and the vibe. And that's definitely what they bring. So I'm part of the F45 team there. And also I'm in the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre. And I run programs there. So I'm one of the program design and deliverers there. And I guess kind of implement, and I guess the best part about the scope of that job is I get to work with our youth, the young people, and trying to link them back into the communities. And I guess that's been the biggest gap moving, I guess, in the past, that gap between, I guess, juvenile and community. So I guess trying to fill that gap up, and the role that I'm in now kind of gives me the ability to do that. So, yeah, it's a blessing in disguise, the role that I've had. I guess my journey there, from sports to where I am now, it all adds up and all means something, and it kind of helps me kind of tell my story, or I guess my narrative to the young people, why I guess be able to connect. So those are my two gigs that I have at the moment, and then I run more programs in schools, also called Engaged. That's also not something else with Queensland Education. I guess it's another branch or another weapon in my arsenal that I have, locked and loaded and just ready to kind of deliver in that. And then obviously, as you said, I'm the head S&C strength and conditioning coordinator, or I guess coach at Sunnybank Rugby. So looking after the seniors and all the juniors and all the pathways. So anything you think of S&C and Sunnybank, that's me. So
you do everything.
I guess that's what I do. And hopefully I can kind of share a bit of wisdom, and I guess what goes into the prep of, in preparing an elite athlete, and what the, I guess, mental, the attitude, the physical prep into all of it.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of people don't kind of take into consideration is they obviously have the physical preparation and the physical kind of aspects of it. But there's a lot of mental preparation as well. There's a lot of other dynamics and aspects that go into preparing to become a rugby player. So I think someone with your experience in all your fields, in your youth work and then in the S&C role, you obviously bring a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom to that kind of those different roles. But let's get stuck into kind of talking about your career. And obviously, I've known you for probably over a decade now, and it's been a long time. And you made your name for yourself both in rugby league and union. But Sunnybank Rugby Club in Australia was where you made your first burst on the 15 seed, and you started playing your senior grade rugby. Were you always looking to go play for Sunnybank, or were you looking at other clubs as well?
I'm really. This is actually a really good question because, I'm very loyal to a club. And so I guess, starting juniors at Sunnybank, there was no other club. Yeah. So my dad I was playing both codes when I was young. So like I was one of those late bloomers. I didn't really start playing club rugby until I was like under 12s, under 13. So I didn't really grow up. I did swimming, I did basketball and all that. And then my dad signed me up to league. I was like, "Oh, Dad, can I play league? We always watch it. Why can't I play it?" And then Dad's like, "Oh, yeah, sweet. We'll see how you go." Because obviously I wanted to play league, and he's a real supportive. And then I asked, "Oh, can I play union?" He's like, "Yeah, let's go play union." So my first year like union was pretty cool. It was under 14s and under 15s. So that's when I started playing for Sunnybank. Actually, no, I started for Sunnybank earlier than that. That's probably my year that I remember. Under 12s, I started playing at Sunnybank.
Yeah.
Under 12s, but then the under 15s was my gun team because I had like Teddy Teller, I had like Chris Clay, like all these gun players that are playing professional, playing for Fiji and all that. But I guess playing juniors for Sunnybank, and then. Yeah, there was no other club. I got to answer the question. Like I've always bled in like green, white, black. You can always get offers and that, from other clubs, and which I did. But my main purpose, and I've always been a Sunnybank man at heart. So there's never been another club.
It's pretty rare that like you'll see a lot of people that are loyal to that one club, and you'll see kind of those figureheads here and there, but you'll see a lot of people as well, especially in Brisbane, if they get like a sniff of an offer or like somewhere to go play other rugby, they'll just jump ship and they'll just go play for, say, if they're playing for Brothers, and they get an opportunity for Sunnybank, they'll just go play for them because they kind of want to just get like a different dynamic or get a better opportunity for themselves. But you rarely see these days that one person will just say, "Hey, I want to stick with this club," and just be loyal to that club. So I think it's a good trait to have, that you're able to show people, "Hey, I'm loyal to this club. I'm never going to go and just jump ship. If it's something, it'll have to be for a pretty big reason." But for Sunnybank Rugby has produced a lot of quality rugby talents like Greg Holmes, Digby Ioane, Liam Gill, Teddy Teller, like you said. Who are some of your favourite players that you played with at Sunnybank?
Oh, there's heaps. You probably know him, Shalom Sunila.
Yeah.
Plays for the Sunila. He was probably one of the best 10s I played off. Not gonna lie.
You reckon?
So yeah. One of the best 10s I've played off. Just like the way that he takes the line in that. So that's just one to mention. But I want to talk about my debut game, which was.
Okay. Yeah.
I had my first Premier Grade game when I was 18. So come in as a cold and then you get asked. What a bully team! It was like Greg Holmes. Like we had Albert N.A. Who else?
Oh yeah, you did have Albie in that team, didn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, we had Ben Lucas, Ben Taps. Who else? Oh, Jake Schatz, Liam Gill, Benny Adams.
That's a stacked team if I've ever seen one. Like.
Yeah, and I was coming off the bench, but it was still a debut and whatnot. And Shane Sully, the guys that I played with. I played with Manu Lemeki, one of the superstars in Japan. He was probably one of the best fullbacks actually that I played with. We had Brando Vaulu. Oh, the list goes on. Rex Tapawai. Yeah, I guess there's some really good players that Sunnybank's produced, and I think that's people people kind of forget real quickly the kind of players that Sunnybank have produced, especially that era when they won the Super Rugby Premiership. It's not easy to win that Super Rugby Premiership, not at all.
No,
So
not at all. Especially in Brisbane, like a lot of people will kind of just overlook it and go, "Oh, this Prem Grade team won a championship this year," and I'm like, you got to realise that's probably one of the hardest things to do. Like when Souths won it that year, they grinded that one out. It was tough. Like they had to go up against a lot of great opponents, and so did Sunnybank that year as well.
Yeah. And the teams that are always consistent, you Q, your heavies, your brothers, East are up there as well now, and it's a good comp. I'm really excited to see what the comp what they produce this year. Obviously because of COVID-19. So.
It'll be kind of an interesting dynamic. That's why I'm looking forward to. I'm glad that Queensland Premier Rugby does those live streams, because when I've been living over here for the last 5 years, I'll catch like random games here and there, and just to see the kind of like the caliber of play and the different styles is really interesting to see in Queensland rugby. You see kind of very similar play and a lot of like shoot shield play in New South Wales, but it's very different in Brisbane, but still very high caliber. So it's an awesome competition to be a part of, definitely.
Yeah. At the moment, rugby, like grassroots rugby, is definitely, I think, should be key for Australia. I think that's the community rugby and all that, because some of the games you watch, it's quite it's entertaining to watch. That's what. As much as you want to like go about the structures and stuff, but that's the difference between New Zealand rugby and Australian rugby. It's just the entertainment factor because of the play. You some of the games I've been watching, I'm like, oh wow.
And you see some of that too. Like you'll see like little glimpses of that in the AU competition for Super Rugby. Like a lot of like little like I think one of my favorite players is Angelo-asiga from the Brumbies. He'll just whip something out of nothing, and he kind of brings that wow factor. And Australia definitely has the potential to do that on the same level as kind of New Zealand, but I think it comes down to kind of the ARU management, and it's good that they've got Dave Rennie and like coaching standpoint here. Hopefully he'll be able to help the ARU out with that. Let's talk about the Aussie Sevens. Opportunity of Australia, and so before your stint with the Aussie Sevens program, you had a stint with the Fiji under-20s. So how did that opportunity to play with Fiji come about?
Yeah, so that's pretty much where I guess my career kind of started. I guess professional career, besides the Sevens of Sunnybank, but I was just lucky. I kind of just took the chance, and I heard the boys were going over. I was like, "Oh, can I go as well? Is that all right?" Just test myself against some of the best of Fiji, and in the small country of Fiji, I guess coming from such a big country like Australia, you have to kind of understand that I made the team, but then you don't realize how much that position that you had in the 20s, because you just took like a position from someone in Fiji that was probably working just as hard as you, or if not harder, to try and get into the team. So it's probably one of the. If I could do it again, I'd do it 10 times over. I recommend going back and playing for your heritage country or where you're from. Funny thing is, I actually asked because I'm Fijian Samoan, and I actually did ask Mum. I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet. Can I go play for SAR?" "Yeah, sweet, I'll organise it." They didn't want to bar me, so I tried my best. I was like, "Better leave," because I was like an Asian. I was like, "Hey, well, come on, man, help me out." So I actually tried to play for SAR. So that's one thing. So Fiji Samoan 20s, I actually tried to go. I was like, "Oh yes, I'll go."
Well, I mean, you got to go take any opportunity you can get. If they don't want to bar you, they don't want to bar you. But
they don't want to bar me. I was like, because I've always represented Fiji, I'm very strong, real proud Fijian.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, I tried. I was like, hey, if you don't want me, all good. I don't mind. I was like, I'll go back I'll play for Fiji. I just thought I'd try to do something nice.
Because I didn't know you were Fiji SAR until like a few years ago. Because whenever we talk, I'd always think, oh yeah, he's Fijian. And then I think Zach brought it up, like I think about 5 years ago, your little brother. And then I was sitting there going, wait, you guys are part Samoan as well? And he's like, yeah, didn't you know that? And I was like, no, I only thought you guys were just Fijian. That was it. And he was like, oh, no, yeah, part Samoan. So.
Yeah, man, trust me, it's always get it because I'll tell you a story when like the Aussie 7 stuff. But so the way they come up, just opportunity come up, and it was such a hard grind. Like, that training is kind of like they're old school Fiji, man, and like, there's a reason why they're so successful in the sevens and why they're building up such a strong rugby force or nation.
Yeah.
Because it's ruthless there, eh? Like, live a military life, do mud runs, do like a 10K run like almost every morning. Like,
that's just normal. That's just regular stuff.
And that goes back to what we were saying, as much as you have the physicality and that, it's all about mental for Fiji. No, it's not about, everyone knows, like, the Fijians, that they got all the time in the world, but that mental, that's the difference, the mental, like, I guess, capacity to actually,
push through all the hard stuff.
Yeah, just push. Meet go into that dark place. When we talk about it, just start asking questions about why you're doing it and stuff. When you start asking yourself those questions in your training, you're doing it right.
Yeah. It could be a very, very dark place to go, but it's definitely the place you need to go to kind of come through that tunnel and get to the light. Definitely.
Yeah. Especially.
So, little side question with that though. Speaking about the Fijian aspect, what do you think about the potential of having those countries potentially join Super Rugby? So you have the Pacific Island teams, they could have a joint Pacific Nations team, or you could have Fiji, a Tonga team, a Samoa team. They could potentially join a new Super Rugby comp, whether it's a New Zealand one, whether it's an Australian one. What do you think about the potential of that?
I think it'd be good for the more Pacific teams that we can kind of get in, like, build that, again, going back to the grassroots, and I've said it a lot, the development, or more opportunities. You're going to have more opportunities for those, those kids, in the villages who are just not stuck there, but, that don't have that kind of exposure.
It's very secluded, yeah.
So, the more teams you can kind of get, and, Fiji did it first, doing like, jumping into the NRC. Absolutely smashing it. Look at the development that they've had over that short time in even the last World Cup. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, sweet, Fiji's going to get blown away by England. It was like, they could be England. They could be Australia. They could, they lost to Uruguay. What the heck? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Out of everything, you're like, what the heck? But,
what the hell has just happened?
I was like,
well, because I was in Japan watching that game against Australia. They had like a fan zone, and I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, man, they could definitely take out this game. Like, it's a definite possibility. And there's so much talent that comes out of those Pacific Island nations, and it's just, I think, in my opinion, it's where the kind of the support systems are, and whether people can kind of help them get to that point. It's very, very limited with a lot of Pacific Island teams, and I think if they're able to get private ownership or private equity, and they're able to start building the economy, because you can see Fiji's become one of the biggest tourist destinations in the world. Everybody wants to go there. So I think if they take the same perspective with rugby and start to build just kind of those building blocks, I think it's definitely a possibility that they could become a tier 1 powerhouse in the near future. Yeah,
definitely. I think, well, I know that they will be if they continue this road. They've done the clean out. They've done everything to try to build Fiji Rugby Union. So it's exciting for Fiji and also the smaller nations, because you go to league, you saw Tonga beat Australia, a full-started Australian side. That's never been seen before. There are upsets, but that was like a big one. So it shows that give them a little bit of freedom to choose who they can play and who can. To ease up on the the cooling off period. There's some damaging. There's some good competition coming up.
100%. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But with you being Fiji Star, what did it mean for you to put on that Fijian jersey for the first time and represent your country? Was it a big moment for you?
Yeah, it was. Massive. What's to call it? a massive tick on my bucket list, and even if it wasn't on my bucket list, it is.
It just got thrown on there.
I just made it for him. I just quoted it. It was in my bucket list, just like this plant. But it's a different feeling. You can't explain it. Like especially when you do the Dhimbi, which is the Fijian war dance. Kind of like the haka, so the Fijian haka. So it's just different. Like you can't explain it. It was
with that. Were you like, I know a lot of Māori kids or a lot of New Zealand kids, they grow up like wanting to do the haka for the first time. Were you one of the Fijian kids when you'd see the Fiji team play, be like, I want to do that. I want to go perform like their war dance or like something like that. Was that something that you ever pictured in your head as a kid?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Like, I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Let's do that. Maybe one day. But I never thought I would actually do it on like that stage. Even though it was under 20s, it's such a massive staple now for anyone that goes to the 20s. Because usually if you play 20s, you're going to have higher honors after that, usually, especially from the smaller nations. So for what it was then, it was something imaginative special. Like, it means a lot. Like, the Dhimbi is not just something that you can throw around lightly. And like we're the only team that really does it in the rugby world. That out of all the teams like that represent Fiji, the Pati boys, the Fiji Pati side, they do the hymn. I know the Lord, but I know non sorry. And then the Fijians, like it's I can't explain it. Well, once you do it, there's a lot of emotion and that you're so fiery, and it does give you that bit of extra intensity. Because that year that I played for Fiji 20s was probably our best Fiji 20 side. We had Semi, we had who was Teddy Teller, Solomon.
Yeah, you guys had a pretty stacked team. You'll see a lot of people they're playing either Super Rugby right now, or they went on to playing sevens, or a lot of people have gone overseas.
So someone else that went through like right now that's killing it, and I'm paramount of us just have an eye for the 20 boys is Mike Civil. He come through the 20s Fiji system as well. So play with my younger brother. So there's that much talent that's coming out of Fiji. There's so much you can go. I went there for my honeymoon, and then we went on a cruise. But then obviously me being Fijian and I'm lucky, I was like, hey, should we go? Because obviously we took like a cruise boat. I took one of the boats, went to one of the villages and played touch there.
Oh, hey.
And all the passengers, so we were staying there the night. So I was like, oh, yeah, all good if we go back. So we just went back, played touch for like 2 hours. Yeah. Telling everyone, I'm kidding you. They throw the ball backwards, someone's there to catch it. They throw it like,
It's crazy. I've always said this to a lot of Americans, but they don't understand it until they see it. Like they'll go watch the sevens, like the new one that they had in LA, and they'll see Fijians play, and they'll see a pass thrown. No one's there. They won't be looking for it, but they just know that there's going to be someone running that support line. Oh. And then one of the girls that I coached, she turned around to me in the stand and was like, "How did he know he's going to be there?" And he's like, "Just they know. They're just able to do that. That's what Fijian rugby is all about."
Yeah, man. I started doing it myself, and I was like getting itchy feet. I was like, maybe I should get back. And then we went back on the plane. I think I'm playing this year. She's like, no, you're not. My wife's like, no, you're not. I was like, oh, you're true. I was just kidding.
That whip.
Yo, let's go.
Well, after your time with Fiji, you were invited to come train with the Australian Sevens. And how long were you a part of that squad before you got your first opportunity?
I was there for a while, like a lot of development camps and that. I think I was there for a total of 3 years, three and a half. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of time, in the academy and that. I got invited to the Aussie Academy, and I was training with those guys, and with the back of my mind that the seven system was looking at me. And then, even when I got back from Fiji, I was like able to train with the Reds for a bit. I was just in that system, just around the right names and whatnot. So, and then, it was good year before I actually got actually a contract or actually played my first tournament for Australia. And then, I guess, the story tells itself. So it was fun. I guess the process, I wish I was in the mindset that I am now whilst I was playing sevens. I kind of took it for granted again. Didn't realize the opportunity that I had in front of me, and I didn't adapt to the culture. you know, people say that, you know, teams in that, like Aussie Sevens, the environment that you create, you know, it's like, you know, it ruins your game. But now looking at it back now, being a bit more mature and a bit wiser, and like hindsight, it's that, yeah, I should have adapted to the culture, and I should have adapted to the way they wanted to play, because at the end of the day, that's what they wanted me to do.
I think it's like a catch-22, because like at the end of the day, you need that experience and that kind of those things to happen for you to realize or kind of appreciate that. But yeah, you can't obviously know that going in. You have to kind of go through that transition process. So it's something where, yeah, it's very difficult just to go in there and go, I can just adapt to this culture and then just go there. You have to learn how to do that. So it's something where you can't just wake up and do it one day.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I didn't realize, like, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, the saying's really true, though. It's just the beginning. Like, you know, you got your foot through the door, but this is where the work begins, kind of thing. And I just, you know, which I did. You know, I had a really smooth start, and then it kind of went kind of stagnant. A lot of injuries. For a year and a half, I was like injured, and like, you know, it really does play. But you know, the boys don't realize that because they're on tour and that. But you know, it does start playing on your mind, and then you know, you start like, you know, having those conversations with yourself, those demons that you have to fight by yourself. Like, the environment was great. You know, the professional environment with Aussie Sevens was good. It's just that I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. You know, like, come like a year and a half later, I was injured, and then I got invited to a development camp. But like, you know, being fully contracted, you don't get invited to development camps. You know, like, and, you know, I didn't perform that well at the camp, and then I just remember, like, obviously I'm fast tracking a lot, but this is like towards the end of my career, or my stint with Sevens was, you know, Mike Connor, and like, this is the conversation that, you know, no one knows, but Michael Connor told me I pretty much sucked. You know, imagine, he's like,
really?
Yeah, he told me that, like, because the reason why we're down there, because we're just about to move down to Sydney, you know, move everything down to Narrabeen, and then, you know, he's like, and I don't know if they were, like, you know, trying to force it. I looked at it, I was like, what the hell? Like, really, like, you know, I think that's one thing they need to change, that culture of, you know, talking to different cultures as well, especially as a young fella. I was 22 or something, and like, you know, they're very old school. Michael Connors, Snoz, very old school. And if anything, you know, I didn't like the guy at the time, but I'm glad he did it, because it actually woke me up a bit afterwards. Like, you know, it took me a while, but pretty much told me I just didn't have it anymore. Like, I lost that spark. And, you know, it's not nice.
Yeah, that's not something you want to hear as a young fella, and it's something where you'll see like sporting documentaries and a lot of things where people will hear that, and that will be like a driving factor for them to become a superstar once like in the future. But it's not for everyone. You can't just go around as a coach and then just go, yeah, you suck. Just go home.
I'm not saying he's a bad coach or anything, but he was a really good coach. I just think that for me, that time, they really did, like, it really did play on my mind, because I didn't back myself after that. And I think a few other guys could probably agree with me. And, you know, I'll have that conversation again. Like, I'll speak freely about it. That I think, you know, call me soft or whatever, I was still there. So obviously he signed me and saw something in me. But what's changed it is, like, you know, just that continue. And I think that's the difference between good coaches and bad coaches, or even great coaches, is that respect that you demand from a player, but also have that rapport with the player to understand that this is what I meant.
Yeah, definitely.
Just transparency is massive. And I think that's where kind of, the culture in those Aussie Sevens was, you know, was good. I wouldn't say it was probably the best culture I had in, like, the world, like, you know, across the board, but it was good. Some of the boys, you know, some of the mates that I made, and you can't replace it. So
yeah, because you were playing with a few local Brisbane boys as well. You were playing with Geordie Toops, and you're playing with Palmer Fowl, and like boys you knew. And I remember speaking to Palmer a few years ago when he was still a part of the Aussie Sevens program, and he had just hurt I think it was his knee or something like that, and he'd gone through that injury. And he says he's gone through through kind of like a dark place as well. Like it's not everybody knows. They don't see that once you're at home recovering or doing that kind of stuff. So I think having a rapport with a coach where he's able to give you constructive criticism and he's able to kind of tell you, hey, you need to improve on this, or like you're not really performing at what we're expecting, and kind of having that rapport is something that I think is really, really needed in a good coach. I agree with that as well. You really need that.
Yeah, and it's, and a lot of the boys, 'cause I actually left my contract early with Aussie Sevens. So
Oh,
I
really?
actually had an early release, yeah. My manager at the time, and I was, the manager at the time. It's just, it wasn't easy for me because, like, for me, it's like failure. You don't want that. You don't want failure. So I got an early release. I just couldn't handle it. Like, the boys didn't realize, because I just packed my bags and just didn't rock up again. So, and then, I guess that's where my story really begins, because that was, I wanted to kind of like, take my life. I didn't want to like live life anymore. And then, there's the conversations. The only guy that messaged me from out of the group, I was drinking around with Lassie and all the other boys, was Lewis Holland. He's a top
really?
fella. Yeah, I'm not even joking. Holland, bro. Louis he sent me a message, like, hey, bro, how's it going? Just checking in. Just, hey, if you need anything, just let me know. And I was like, oh, man, I really appreciate the message. And I guess, those little things, you don't hear those type of stories about, Louis as much as you should. But he's actually a really good lad. And out of all those guys in the team, he's the only one that really reached out to me and actually asked, hey, is everything all good? Hey, it's tough. It's not easy. So, whenever I see him, I always go say hi, because he's a top bloke, man.
Yeah, it's something that you see with, like, especially like a good example is when you leave high school, or you kind of go through a transition period in your life, you really see who your true friends are, who really has like your best interests at heart, who the people who do those like little small things that may not seem like much to some people, but to the person on the other end, it could be massive. Like you said, like someone who just reached out to you, hey, how you going? But he was the only one to do it. So it's something where it's definitely something that really, really kind of adds up, and you really goes and helps your mental aspect.
And you could say that, like, it was unprofessional me leaving my thing because the way I left and whatnot. But no one knew like my battles and that I was going through. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not ashamed of it. I was like, I'm glad I did, because I'm so much more happier for it.
That's good.
Little opportunities came from it. So
But on the other end of the spectrum, you ended up scoring a lot of tries for Australia during your time with them. Do you have like a favourite game or favourite memory with the team, or a favourite contest that you went up against?
Not really, yeah. Kind of like not shy away. Probably my favourite game wasn't it like for, actually my favourite tournament wasn't even for like Australia or anything. It was actually for Sunnybank. Like some of the tournaments I played for Sunnybank and Tribe,
Yeah.
And after a while, just because it actually felt like a bit of like more of a home for me. Like I was back in Israel. But then even then, like probably my favourite tournaments and that would have to be with the Tribe boys, Sam Kaslik and that, and the culture that they built around that. I really enjoyed playing for Tribe. And one of the best tournaments I played with them was probably the Dubai tournament. The invitation.
I do want to go out to that tournament, because I hear like a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, like you can. It's a sick setup, but I guess again for me after Aussie and that one I did. It was for me. It was just about finding happiness in playing sport. Really, it wasn't about. And I didn't say that I had a lot of other gigs and stuff overseas and whatnot, but I guess that was the kind of waking up. Not wake up. I'm just really lucky I had like a really good support system around.
To support kind of your mental well-being and everything. So
like my mom and dad, like they were massive. That was probably one of the people that I didn't want to let down was my dad. Being an Islander and that, you don't really quit, especially in the position. Yeah. I did, I'm mentoring a few guys now, so I can't really complain. Like, yeah, but we can go in that a bit more later when I go into the NRL world.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to move on to after this. So a big part of your career has obviously been playing union, but you were also a part of a TV show called the NRL Rookie. So what made you want to pursue a career in league and audition for the show?
So it was actually my push from, I just wasn't happy at Sunnybank, really. As much as I love the club, I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with like my performance. It really got to me, like the Aussie Sevens thing really got to me after a while. Even if I had like a few gigs overseas and whatnot, but yeah, I come back to Sunnybank and I just wasn't enjoying rugby. I just need something different. Kind of like a different opportunity. So I was actually just going to hang up the boots and just focus on career, really. But then obviously the NRL Rookie came up. So, and I wasn't even going to do it. I was like, after they extended, like, so they had like a timeline, a deadline. They extended that deadline. And I put in my video, my application after that deadline. So after the second,
I remember talking about this when you kind of with like, I think you had first sent in the video and I asked you about it and you were like, yeah, I didn't like catch the deadline at all. I put it in like way later and I was like, what the hell? It's for a TV show.
One of my best mates, Shay Lawson, he was the reason why. So he was like, he helped me do the videos. I still did the application. He's like, yeah, you should do it. Like, you're really like massive support for it. So it was like legit. I was like, all right, let's do it. Like the night of, like when that's why I was like, always after the extension. I guess one thing led to another. I got in and Bob's your uncle, so.
and you guys had some pretty interesting challenges and like games on that show. Like it wasn't your traditional sports show. It was very different. So like, did you have like a favorite challenge or favorite kind of opportunity on that show?
Yeah, my favorite opportunity, I guess, was the game against Melbourne Storm 20s. I really ripped up and killed it there. So that kind of like opened up a lot of. I turned a lot of heads when I was open. Like turned a lot of heads. Like, oh crap! I guess I just had a good crack. What they portrayed me in the show was, I don't know what they were trying to portray. Like some like.
Because you were wearing this Sunnybank kit in like the first episode, weren't you? You were wearing.
Yeah.
There was you and there was a kid from I think East. He was.
Elias Power. He's now a school teacher. He's a good guy. He's a good fella. At night time, you would always be like, Elias, we need words of wisdom. So he just tell us like he uses a book of knowledge, like wealth of knowledge. He's like a 50-year-old man of knowledge in like a 20-year-old body back then. That was like we used to just laugh. Some of the stuff that he would say was outstanding. Yeah, so that was probably that. And like one of my favorite challenges was actually the sheep one when I had to try herd sheep. Because I was like, why do you need this?
Oh yeah.
How do you herd sheep? It's like, is it all by luck?
You just go talk to a bunch of New Zealanders. They'll tell you how to do it.
How do you?
Oh man.
Sweet.
Oh.
But
and you got pretty close to winning the show as well, but ended up getting cut around I think week 7. And
so like I guess a week out from the final challenge. So that was I should have went a bit harder. They got to me, and it was actually funny. Like they actually that's like they because they play not mind games, but they really do test you. It's not a fake show, that's for sure. Everything that we did was real and real time. So I went close, and I wish I'd won it. Things might have been different, but it opened up a lot of doors and opportunities. Then a rookie, so no regrets. Got to where I am. Played Q Cup for Tweed. Had a few.
That's what I was going to ask you as well. Is you made the trek down to go play for Tweed rather than going back to Union. What made you trek down south and go play for them?
This is an opportunity, and I'm glad I did. I could have gone to Ipswich to my backyard. And I was living in Ipswich at the time, or Springfield Lakes area, and going from there to Tweed, it's not a short drive.
It's not an easy drive, yeah.
But, again, it goes back to the whole, happiness and culture and that. And I really enjoyed it down there. Made some really good mates. Some really, I got 2 best mates out of that team and that. And, I would have continued to go there, but, I was really unlucky. I tore my pec. I did my hand. So, just injuries, it's all part of the process and part of the game. So I was like, come on, man, Lord, what's happening here? Come on, talk to me. If I've done something wrong, let me know. But I can't.
Just tell me in my ear.
Yeah, when I did my hand, I kept playing, but I always want to have surgery, so I had surgery. But then, the coach still hit me up. Still hits me up, Ben Wolfrey there. So I would love to go back to it. And that's the thing. I wouldn't go. I could have gone and played for another Q Cup side, but I'm very big on loyalty. So if I was going to play Union here, it would be for Sunnybank. If I was going to play League, I'd go back to Tweed. It's just the type of guy I am, and it's especially with that stuff. Just you don't see it much, but it's a great club. A lot. I actually really enjoyed Tweed and the coaching staff and that back when I was there. Aaron Zimmerly, he's actually in Canada at the moment. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I've always heard good things about Tweed. Tweed's always been. You always hear about great culture down there. Great club to go play for. There's a bunch of boys from Brisbane that would do the same thing as you. They would go down and play at Tweed just because they hear that kind of stuff. So it's got to be a good club if you're going to be making that friggin' drive.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and you had during your playing career, you were an S&C coach, you were doing S&C stuff, but currently you've given the boots some rest and you're doing it full time as a S&C coach with Sunnybank. How did you kind of manage to transition into that role? Into the Sunnybank role or into I think we'll talk about the Sunnybank role. I know you've worked your way into S&C aspects. And you're doing a lot, obviously, with F45 as well and a few other things. But how did you manage to get into that Sunnybank role?
Yeah, so I've actually been forced to hang on my boots. So I had a really bad injury last year, a career injury kind of thing, or questionable. So I lacerated my kidney last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did tell me that. Yeah.
My kidney, yeah. So I guess, I was kind of forced to all right, I still want to be part of rugby. How? And then, the S&C opportunity come up. John O'Ward that was there, he's gone over to Grenoble in France, doing the top 40 in there. Mm-hmm. And, it's been an awesome journey. I kind of had I did a probation phase there to kind of prove my worth. During the sevens, I was doing a lot of free work. Not free work, a lot of work experience, I guess.
It's kind of like your apprenticeship or something like that.
Yeah, your cadetship, your apprenticeship, your traineeship. So I did that, and then I remember getting the calls this because they were trying to appoint all these positions there this. So the senior committee had a meeting from 6. They'll fill in all the positions from head coach, whatnot, to head of department for S&C, head of department from their staff, head of rugby for the program. And I got a call 11:30 at night. What the heck? It was from Brando, our rugby director, our rugby participation manager. I was like, "Yo, what's up? Hey man, I just want to let you know that you got the role." And I was like, "Huh?"
At 11:30.
He's like, "You got the role. You got the gig." I was like, "Yo, let's go." I was like, "Oh man." I was like, blessed day. I was like, because I know how many people went in for the job and their qualifications and whatnot. I guess for me, my biggest perk is I've just lived and breathed the professional life of rugby.
Yeah.
And obviously I have the qualifications, but I was not optimistic, but I wasn't I guess you could say I was kind of optimistic. I was like, oh man, I didn't say I was definitely get it because I got it, because you just don't know always.
You were just confident that you could pretty much get it.
Yeah, I was confident, but then I wasn't I was like, oh, but maybe you just don't know because you don't know where the committees and stuff. But yeah, I got it. I guess transition into that S&C role. as a player to coach, just over a short time, I was like, during the 7th season, I've been able to get that kind of, not gain, I guess, earn the respect from the boys and from the playing group. I'm still good mates with some of the boys in the team now, in our Premier squad, first grade squad. So it's been a blessing, really, like the amount of respect that I do get from the boys, and like, they listen, they reach out to me, because I guess I'm different from other SNCs. I'm really big on, people, like, play management.
And you spoke about it before. It's like the difference between good coaches and great coaches, you're able to have that rapport with the players. And I think you're able to kind of have that extra leg up as you're able to not just talk to them as a coach. You're able to turn around and go, we're mates, and I'll tell you what I really think, and I won't sugarcoat it, and I'll give you honest feedback.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, going from as a player, and then, the boys give me banter, and that's all. I love banter. But when I say hit the line, I mean hit the line, and if not, get off my field.
That's what you need. You kind of, I think that's the thing that a lot of coaches, when they go into that role, if they've especially been a part of that culture, they don't know how to split it. They don't know how to go, listen to this. This is what I need as a training plan, or we're mates. It's like, switch it off. Listen to this part over here, and then let's put in the hard work, and then after we'll go grab a feed.
And that's where they can, I guess, past coaches and SNCs, and also the boys see me working out, they see me lifting, they see me training, they know I can still do it, so they're like, well, if he can still do it, I guess we should probably listen to him. So I'm really big on practice what I preach. So I'm not gonna get like one of my boys be like, all right, I'm like, hey, do this movement. It's like, I've never seen you do that. I hate that. When you're like, all right, if you're gonna teach a burpee, make sure you can do burpees yourself.
I think that's been kind of one of my kind of driving focuses. Is I think I was doing training with the team I was coaching with last year, or this season, and then I was sitting there going, like, if I'm going to be telling these guys to do it, I'm going to take this quarantine period, get super fit, and go through and make sure that if I say I want to do a burpee, or if I want to do a suicide, I can jump in alongside them and do it with them as well. It's you practice what you preach. It's something that I think a lot of people respect that as well.
Yeah, and I guess that's the difference between me and other coaches. Yeah, I just kind of have like my own flair, my own vibe, and just banter. And like, if one of the boys, if there's like a bit of banter within the group, I'll call it out, and like, say someone calls out someone in the comments, we post it up on Facebook at the prep and all that. Yeah. I'll call him out and say, hey, Larry, not Larry, but he's like, oh, Bob, why aren't you next to Michael? You were just calling him out before. He's like, oh, and then I was like, Bob, make sure you're there in front, and then he's in behind. I was like, don't be throwing that chat then. Just stuff like that. Just that's probably that's the best example how I deliver. But I can't take all the credit. I've got some great mentors around me and that whatnot. And one of your favorite teams, the Waikato, not the Chiefs, but the Waikato NPC team. My cousin was the SNC in the SNC department, and also in the Waikato.
True.
Yeah, Luke Vossel is his name.
Yeah,
so he's there, and he's been a strong pillar for me. I've got a few things from like Matt Ellis, ex SNCs from Sunnybank, and Flinny, Owen Flynn. He's been helping me out, and then been really real good. Brando, I've got Sion there as well. Fufuka, say hi.
He was my Prem Colts coach, and I know he can definitely coach. He's a great guy, and he's a great guy to have at the helm of everything.
Very methodical, everything's systemized. Everything runs by a system process.
Oh, definitely. The amount of times where you would see him working through his head of like how he wants something, and he's able to just see the smallest things that can make the biggest change on the field. I remember him. I can't remember what it was, but I remember him telling me like some way to execute this one play. And as soon as I did it and went through the motion after he gave me that critique, I was sitting there going, holy crap, that just gave us like an extra 15 meters, or it gave us this extra little buffer that can help out in the game. So great guy to have.
And it's you about Sunnybank. We haven't had the best winning culture, so we've been on the lower the back end of the spectrum and the lower end of the ladder. I guess the biggest one is we're trying to like, you know, it's been really good because obviously we got new admin, new coaches. We're just trying to change our culture.
Yeah,
and that's the big one.
It's definitely something that you can look at it and go, we've done it in the past. We just need to just reshape everything and just go start anew. I think that's where it's going to be tough to do that any place you go and try and do that. But as long as you have good rapport, good relationship, and you're able to kind of practice what you preach, or you're able to come in with and knowing your stuff, I think it's definitely something that it can be done, especially in some games.
And it's like, you know, just feeling, what's the word? Just make sure, if I make myself accountable to be better, I know that, and like, you know, make sure that I follow my like processes and that, like making sure that I stick to plan, because that's massive. Like attention to detail is massive, and that's massive for me as well. Just those little things, and you find that everything just organically grows or organically just moves. It's mad. It's like watching the process happen. It's
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy to see in person.
You know, change a culture. It's kind of like that the Stereots paradox, or like, you know, the frog analogy kind of thing, especially with like the frog analogy. You know, like
what's that?
You know, gradual, like pretty much like gradual change. So one change could, like, you know, rather than making like a massive change or something, it's about gradual change and making sure that, you know, because you know how people don't like change.
Okay. Yeah,
so it's that kind of concept and analogy of like gradual change.
Just ease into it. Yeah.
Easy. But like, you know, finding like, you know, something massive could be detrimental to the process of that. So it's being in this role and being the jobs that I have, like you kind of learn different languages, or different like analogies or paradoxes.
Oh, you don't have to tell me about different languages. I came out here thinking I was speaking complete proper English, and then everyone was just looking at me the first season I coached going, "What did you say?" And I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna have to rechange all of this and just go into their shoes." Yeah.
Like chair, bro. Hey, what does that mean? He wants me to throw a chair.
Throw a chair.
It's a chair, my bro. Like chair, my bro. Like you want a chair? Nah, Jay, that's a chair.
Bro, I think the best story and best comparison was it when I was like, I pointed at the car park and I went, "All right, you guys have to go run to the car park and back." And all these American kids just stood there and they stared at me, and they were like, "What did he say?" And I was like, "The car park, that thing over there." And they were like,
"You mean the parking lot?"
We still don't get it. And they were like, "Do you mean the parking lot?" And I'm like, and just like having just brush those things off and then just go language barriers, different terminology. It's just something you need to learn. But yeah,
surely they know the car park. Like,
I don't even want to get started because I'll be here for like ages. But it's called the bonus point for a reason, and our bonus point segment, as we spoke about at the start of the show, is what goes into preparing a rugby player for a season and enduring during that time. So I think you as an S&C coach, and obviously you with the playing background as well, you can provide us a really good kind of insight into how to prepare for that season or what goes into that preparation. And before we kind of get into that, I just wanted to see, how has the dynamic been different with the pandemic for the Brisbane competition? Like for you guys, I saw a video, I think, when you guys first went back to training and everybody had the table with the hand sanitizer and getting the heat checked and everything like that. What's been different? Like what have you had to think about as an S&C coach?
Yeah, just I guess getting creative, eh? That's the biggest one, and you know, making sure that you are following the procedures and the policies that are in place and the restrictions. Until obviously, you know, it's been really good that it's eased off now, but at the start it was like, all right, sweet, sorry boys, you guys are gonna run, hit the ground, run, because we weren't even allowed in the gym, like, you know, the Sunnybank gym, you know, because obviously the way that Sunnybank the gym's run, it's under Sunnybank, so therefore we can't use anything else, but because with the process and that the club puts in like a plan, and that's what we have to stick to until we also open it up. We've just recently opened the gym like 2 weeks now. So.
And Sunnybank's got like some nice gym equipment. Like every time I go there and I'd see it, I'm just like, man, I wish South had this. Like this sucks. Like they have the best stuff.
We have the best facilities. It's been underutilized, so now that's my job to make sure that's changed. But S&C, it's quite easy, you know, there's a lot of body work, you know, body weights, weighted exercise and whatnot. And, you know, Sunnybank in the past years just hasn't been fit enough. We haven't been fit enough as a club across the board. So I guess that was one of the things I did want to change, was that mindset of like Sunnybank being able to last 80 plus, you know, minutes, have the players to be that durable. And then
let's kind of jump in and let's talk about it. So we'll say that I know obviously a lot of players, we spoke about it before, as each player has specific needs and goals to prepare their body for a season of rugby and prepare their mental capacity as well. But if we just think of kind of a general sense before preseason even starts, what do you think about goals as your players? Is it just kind of the fitness aspect, or do you have like a checklist of everything, or is it you just want to get them that 80 plus minutes? You want to get them ready for it?
Yeah, I guess it goes back to like before we even start. So I always base everything around 4 pillars of like what my values are, right? So, and then it's also the 4 pillars that also can relate to what the Sunnybank players also want to do. So, you know, every player is different, but as long as they have, you know, respect for themselves and for the team, that's massive. So, you know, these 4 pillars are like the values that we have. It's like I said on my wrist, so we have like relentless, accountable, respect, and resilience. So those things come into play, and then, you know, before you even start training or anything with SSC, and this is what I'm massive about, is also creating a culture around it. Yeah. You know, what's something, there's no use in me saying, or how am I going to sell it, or how am I going to create this viable culture buy-in from the players. So when I'm going to go prep and that, obviously you can take all the science and whatnot, but science is no good if no one wants to buy it or no one wants to buy into it.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, you know, and this is something massive in Australia at the moment. Like, and this is the difference between Australia, New Zealand, America, and all that. New Zealand's such a massive forum, and everything that they do S&C wise is to improve New Zealand rugby, right? So you see every S&C coach doing pretty much the same thing or similar things to kind of, you know, get the upper edge, or, you know, they're trying to reinvent themselves, and they're also sharing a lot. Here in Australia, I don't find they share just as much as in S&C, which is quite not disheartening, but it's very hard to get, like, you know, what are the Reds doing, what are the Waratahs doing, unless you actually know or have a kind of foot in the door. At the moment, everything's like, you know, made up, not made up, but, you know, you have to do your own research. Well, America's the same. America's it's an open forum. They're very open about, like, you know, what they're given and whatnot. Here in Australia, you have to show $1, and I think that's where, you know, show me the money. I'm like, well, no, well, if I was, you know, with some of the guys that I have and that I'm mentoring, it's, you know, I think my knowledge is worth a lot. It's worth a lot for everyone for free. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's worth a lot that you can't get, but it's whatever you want to interpret it. So preparing the player, massive for me, is about knowing the player and who you're working with. You know, there's a difference between working with a junior grade player, all right, and then obviously with the seniors. So at rugby, we have like 5 stages of, you know, I guess the 5 principles of rugby. We have the same thing for S&C, that we've developed 5 principles or 5 stages that we want to achieve at Sunnybank as S&C group. So, you know, making sure it's fun. So fun is the first stage 5. So that's for anyone like juniors and that, because, you know, if you jump in too early, you can kind of lose it all. So fun, enjoy training. So also the same thing, but train for purpose, train to play, train to compete, and then train to win.
Okay. Yep.
So those are the things that we take into consideration when we're, like, you know, you go in more detail, but that's all we've kind of developed around our S&C team. So to build the elite guys, you know, you're training to compete, but then also training to win. So that's number 1. Train to win, train to compete.
Yeah.
And that's probably the area I'll kind of focus on with this talk. So more, and then once you build that culture, once you, like, realize, like, these are the stages that we're at, because you might have a Premier Grade player that just wants to play for fun, but that's unrealistic. Usually, if you're playing top grade, playing Premier Grade Reggies, you're pushing for high honours, right?
You got a fair amount of drive in you.
Yeah, lots of drive. So those are the 5 stages. So culture, the 5 stages, where the players fit in that, and where they good. So, you know, your veggies in that could be in like the, stage 3, stage 4 area, just train to train. And then, you train to compete. After that, that's when you're going to get into your macro cycles, your micros, your mesocycles, your microcycles. So your macro cycles, obviously the whole year. Your mesocycles, like, those, the little stages, those cycles, like for 2 to 4 weeks. So they're usually the month or month and a half of like what you're programming. So before I get into meso, you got like, you have your off season, you have your pre-season, you have your competition, and then you have your transition phase, or I wish I had like a PowerPoint. So you make some like mad as like.
I'll just edit something in as soon as you put your finger up and just be like, bam, right there.
Right there, bam. So yeah, and then you have your post-season, your transition season to like what they're trying to. Those are the conversations again. We go back to the culture and the stages that they fit in, and then back into the science.
Well, I think when we get past the culture, and obviously that's a big standpoint for a lot of teams is getting that culture right first, and then focusing on a lot of the other stuff. When the boys are getting stuck into preseason, are you focusing more on cardiovascular endurance? Are you focusing on strength? A balance of both? What's kind of the top priority?
And again, it goes back to individualizing and personalizing the program for tailoring it to the player, to the position. So my props in that, they're not going to be as fit as my, they're going to give catch 22. They got to give a little to take a little, to take a little to give a little, with what their position. I don't want my prop. If my prop is running a better beat test or better yo-yo than my outside back, there's a lot of questions being asked about why is that outside back. You know what I mean? There's different things like, props are power athletes, they can still, don't get me wrong, they can still be fit, but it's a different type of fitness. Your flankers, your loosies, your back rolls, and it depends what type of lock you are. You're 4 or 5. Now, the way that you play, you open side and you think. So what I've done now is I've actually individualized all the programs according to your position. And then in that position, I've actually individualized because everything's app-based as well, individualized to the player. So it's like, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of depth and a lot of thought into it. It's not just, oh yeah, sweet, you can do that. It's not generic.
Yeah.
So
I think that's where a lot of coaches get caught up, especially when they're trying to get an elite performance out of a program. They'll go, let's just do a beat test, or we'll do just like a Bronco or something like that, and we'll just get everyone fit, and then we'll focus on strength afterwards, or we'll do something like that. You are right. You're never going to get one player who's going to mirror another player who may have a different position or may even have a different type of physical build. You see hookers or props, even in the AU competition, you'll see one massive big bloke who's got a lot of power, but then you've got another hooker or another prop that may have a lot of internal strength that could do other things. It's very, very different.
And that's the biggest like, I guess argument, like where do you kind of draw the card? No, there is no secret recipe. I think it's like your own recipe, really, like your own special like sauce that you create for your team, So like I'm making a stir fry right now. Tomorrow I want to make it, I'm gonna be like that, you know what I mean? Like I'm making a stir fry right now, and I'm gonna make sure like the best thing to stir fry for these results. And those are the KPIs, like the percentages, and it goes back to someone like Bowden Barrett, right? So for the Bronco, every outside back needs to hit a 430. Right, under 430, or not that, like 450, under 450. But Bowden Barrett just ran a 413, or 417, the fastest ever.
Something crazy like that,
yeah. But if he ran a 420, is he improving? Is he decreasing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, was it just an off day? Because testing, so like there's so many variables in it. Like, so there's like brackets and stuff. So for some of the players, like, as long as they're around like a certain KPI or a certain benchmark for you, they're fit. And like that, and that's where S&C can kind of get real wrong. S&C is either about, improving a player or also maintaining a player. Because at the end of the day, my main goal, my sole purpose is to make sure that player is ready to go on the field. It's not about having this ego thing as S&C, as I'm going to make you the fittest, the strongest, well, I'm going to break you as well, because that's what you're going to do. You're just going to lift, but then they can't play on the field. So it's about body management. Like, we have a lot of data around wellness, well-being, how sore you are, it's all that whole wellness, again, the mental aspect of it all. Like that's what I look at majority of the time. How are you feeling after the game?
So I guess the last question I'll ask in regards to this is the mental aspect or the kind of the physical aspect with your players is which is more important, or are they both the same to kind of develop and continue with recovery and avoiding injuries or maintaining that increase in development? Is there one that is more important than the other, or just maintaining both of them?
I think, if you want to create a holistic program around S&C and also around rugby, you have to have everything has to be equal. And nothing can be greater than the other. If you kind of lack in, I guess there's a certain level, go back to thinking there's a certain level of fitness and cardio that a person has. And again, it goes back to individualizing the program, individualizing exercises for that person. And that's probably what I want to say is it's about individualizing and about making sure that everything that you tell that person or that player, not person, that athlete, is balanced. There has to be a well balance, because if it's overcompensated, say you're too much cardio, right? When you go into contact, you're going to hurt yourself, because you don't have that physical, those physical attributes to take contact at a high level. If you're playing 4th grade or something, or 5th grade, actually sometimes it's questionable. But playing Colts, and you can kind of get away with it. But when you're playing against full-grown men, they're hitting you just as hard as they can, and all, it is. I think it has to be a balance. I don't think one way outweighs the other.
Yeah.
And the recoveries, end of the day, for me, during in-season, during off-season, you can smash them. But during in-season, it's about, maintaining, managing the player, managing your body, making sure that your injuries are right, all your little niggles, try and get you back on the field. If you're not, as SSC, if you're not doing your best to keep a player on the field, or, they're not on the field, that's kind of your own KPIs that you kind of keep for yourself. You're not doing your job at the best. My big job is, we had a game last weekend, and he's hurt his foot. My main focus is about, he wants to train, obviously, but I was it's probably smart just to sit out. You're still one of the fittest guys in the team. He runs the best yo-yo, best this. I was you're not going to, obviously, the best 1.2. You're not going to lose any fitness if you just rest. You already got those crazy gains, and he's a great player as well. So
it's kind of that pros and cons list, which is more beneficial for the player. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I think a lot of people they got a big insight into kind of what goes in, what's important, and kind of setting the foundation for what goes into becoming an elite rugby player. So I think we'll leave it there. But I think if anybody has any questions or anything, I'll put out your details, and if anybody wants to reach out to Peter, more than welcome. I know he's always keen for a good yarn and keen to help out people. So I think it'll be
definitely keen. So sorry for keeping you. No, Jesus.
Nah, shush. You never keeping me. It's been too long since I've been able to talk to you, so I'm making the most of it. But what are you looking forward to for this Sunnybank season? Is there any
upsets? I guess we're kind of going into the season, obviously, because of last year. No one really knows the kind of caliber of players we have, and I guess the different culture that we've kind of built, and just a mate for mate. Really, it's going to be exciting. I'm hoping there's going to be a few upsets as well, a few few shock moments. We do
anyone you're super excited to play? Any teams?
East South, they're always good to play, but I'm really excited to play brothers in your UQ, because they're the staple, they're the benchmark for us.
The real test.
Yeah, well, East have a really good side this year as well, so we got them this week as a trial game, so it's not competition, but that'll be. If there's going to be one game I'm real excited to play, it's probably the brothers game. Not so much me, but to see how players go. And also, I guess, Souths. It's always a good place, South. That's our local derby. Everyone knows
That's like basically the Queensland club version of the Battle of the Bombays, the Blues versus the Chiefs version. That's basically our version.
Yeah.
Is go and play them. Well, from a I'd say former South boy. I'm never gonna go away from South. Is go mess up brothers for me. Give them a good hiding, and then I'll be able to give you a good high five when I see you next. So that'll be good fun.
We can just do a Zoom call again.
Just on the field, just send me a message. That'll be all good fun. But no, I just want to say thank you for kind of taking the time out of your busy day. I know it's very early in the morning. And you got other stuff on today, and you're a very busy man. But I think a lot of people will get a good insight into what it takes to kind of prepare as an elite rugby player, and really good little nuggets that you've given. I think a lot of people who are listening will really take that to heart and take that for their preparation on their own.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
No, of course, brother. Anytime. But we'll catch up soon, and we'll hopefully be on the same continent. We'll be able to grab a beer, and I'll be able to meet
coffee.
You. Coffee. Yeah, better coffee than out here, so it'll be a good one. But thank you. All the best to you and your family back home, and we'll have a chat soon. All right.
Cheers, brother. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us on the Bonus Point podcast.